Today we're going to make mozzarella cheese. We're going to use 6 litres of milk for making the mozzarella cheese. I've used full cream milk. In fact, it's actually raw milk. You can actually, I don't know how good your eyes are, but you can see the difference in the cream there. So there's lots of cream in there. You can actually see it's just good enough. There's a line there for the cream, and so it's really good. Also, one of the things I do when I'm making mozzarella cheese, sometimes I leave the milk out, I bring it out that morning and then let it come to room temperature, because often room temperature is pretty close to what you want when using temperatures making mozzarella cheese. So for today's mozzarella cheese, also today is going to be ultimately a 2-part series. The reason for that is the waste product, you could say, of making mozzarella cheese, which is whey, can actually be then used to make ricotta. Now the word ricotta actually means in Italian to cook twice, and that's why it's like that. Ricotta is usually a cheese that has no salt in it, but we always put salt in it because we really enjoy the taste. And so you'll have to watch the second part of this short series. Also, when you're going to make mozzarella cheese, you need a decent sized pot. A pot to suit the amount of milk that you're going to process. I'm using 6 litres of full cream raw dairy milk. You'll also need a temperature gauge. This one here will do centigrade and Fahrenheit. And a nifty way of checking within reason is, if you want, you can just hold on the end of your gauge and you'll see it climb up to slowly round about 33 degrees. And that's actually what your body's skin temperature typically is 33 degrees. But we won't worry about doing that today, but you can see it climbing up there. So 32 degrees is a fraction over what you want when you're putting in the rennet into your cheese. So you can actually feel the milk a little bit and you get pretty close to what you want if you didn't have a temperature gauge, but I still personally would advise a temperature gauge. Okay, won't worry about getting it right up. Okay, you'll want, say, some containers with some cool water in it. This one's got 160 mils, this one's got 90 mils. And what we'll do, we've got citric acid. What I want for 6 litres of milk, I want 2 1/4 teaspoons of citric acid. I'll just get that out. Let's use the quarter, so it's 2 1/4. Okay, we'll stir that in. Shouldn't take too much. Once you've got that, it's 1/4 teaspoon of liquid rennet. This is a vegetarian rennet, little 50 ml bottle. Mad Millie is the brand here. I'm not specifically pushing that brand or anything, but that's the one I use. You can get that at brewery shops. I buy mine at a local shop that sells a lot of gear for cooking and chefs and cooking, flours, lollies, specialty items in food particularly. Okay, so we'll just put the liquid rennet into the 90 mils of cool water. Make sure it's stirred in. Okay, so we just put them aside just for a bit. Now, this is a 7 litre large saucepan. Doesn't matter if your milk is a little old, if it's been sitting around for a week. In the fridge, that is. That's not sitting around outside in the hot sun. You won't have milk by that stage. So obviously it's about 7 litres right to the very top. Alright. Then once you put that in, put your citric acid in straight away. There we go. Just sort of feel that. Yep. A little bit cool, so it must be close to the right temperature I want, which is 32 degrees for this first step. Stir that in. This helps that to sort of join up a little bit the citric acid. If you're using more shop bought milk, you definitely really do need citric acid. Okay. Let's just see how we go with our temperature. Remember, it's just 32. Once you reach 32, we'll place in the rennet and water mixture. Give it a good stir for about 30 seconds. Then once we do that, we put the lid on and we'll let it sit for about 10 to 15 minutes. Sometimes I've left it for 20 minutes. I don't think it really matters. Then it should form into a large block and cut it up. But we won't worry about that just yet. It just gives you a bit of an idea where we're heading. Now if you start with milk straight out of the fridge, this will naturally take you a lot longer. It's just after lunch for me, and I've had the milk frozen blocks this morning. I pulled them out of the freezer and I warmed them up, and they were close to room temperature by the time I finished. Admittedly, I did use a bit of warm water to push them along. Alright, we're nearly 32. There we go. Alright, quickly get your rennet, pour him in, stir it right in. You can turn the heat up now if you want, it'll only increase. Okay, give it a good stir for about 30 seconds. And very shortly we'll stop filming just for a little bit, and then we'll come back and show you what it looks like once we've put the rennet in and it's done its enzymatic effects. Okay, we're nearly there. Doesn't have to be exactly 30 seconds. You won't be arrested if you do 32 or something. Okay, just make sure it's well stirred in, that's the main point. Okay. Put the lid on, make sure you remove it right off the heat, and we'll come back in about 15 minutes and have another look. Alrighty, it's about 15 to 20 minutes later, and we're going to have a look at our efforts. As you can see, it's sort of firmish there. You can see it's sticking to the side. Let's have a little bit of a look-see. Yes, that's pretty good. Okay, that's what you're sort of looking for. That clear liquid is the whey, of course, and you've got the curds sort of formed a block. Now basically you cut it up into squares to try and release the whey out of the curds. You can cut them into smaller blocks if you want, it doesn't really matter, but around about that size is what you want. We don't need to worry about being too particular. Now at this stage, once you've got to this point, we need to heat it up to 43 degrees Celsius. I have no idea what that is in Fahrenheit. Okay, let's just slowly loosen him up. Looking pretty good so far. You don't want to smash the curds up, just sort of loosen them up, agitate them a little bit. Now it should be pretty close to the 32 degrees it was before. Let's see how our super duper thermometer goes. Okay, I don't think you really need to be absolutely perfect and to the dot. Remember, this is the first part of a two-part series where we're making both mozzarella and ricotta. I always make ricotta when I'm making the mozzarella, just simply because the byproduct of the mozzarella can be used to make ricotta. Alrighty, we're nearly to the magic number. 42.9, there we go. Right, turn her off. Okay, now we're up to this stage. You get a plastic bowl and plastic colander. You could use metal if you want. There's no real reason why you have to use plastic. You can see it's just about starting to look like yummy mozzarella already. Okay, we'll get a different sort of cooking weapon here and we'll scoop it out. Try not to make too much mess. Mainly the reason is so your wife doesn't kill you. Mozzarella like this, I tend to think to be a little bit plain. I don't mind the taste, but it tends to be a little bit plain. Now we can do a couple of different decisions here. We can heat this way up to 85 degrees Celsius, and when it gets to about 85, we try and monitor the heat at that stage. Form this cheese into balls and work it like you see often movies and different shows, and then we can put that into storage, or we can wrap it around with Glad wrap or something like that. But I personally don't at this stage. What I do, I collect the whey out of the cheese, and you can see there's plenty of whey still in there. Okay. Now, depending on how juicy or soft you want your mozzarella cheese, depends on how much you force the whey out. Okay, so you get like that, you start pouring it through, and you work it a few times. You squeeze all the mozzarella, all the whey out, I should say, sorry about that. Then you work it into little balls and melt it, and you can go that way, or you can put it into lengths and plait it and do all sorts of things. Depends on how you want to go, what sort of presentation you want. If you just want to eat it, well, you don't get too worried. Not going to make any difference in your stomach what it looks like. So let's try and force a lot of the whey out. So you can heat this whey up to 85 degrees and form your mozzarella and call it a day. I don't. The reason why I don't is because this whey that's in this large pot here is going to become ricotta later on. Of course, it all won't be ricotta. The ricotta actually forms on top when you heat it up. Okay, but you'll have to watch part 2 for that. Okay. Starting to form a nice block here. One of the things you can do is place the finished product into ice cold water. I'd say it's probably recommended to do that. I often don't. And the main reason why I don't place it in ice cold water when I often finish is because usually I forget to get the ice cold water ready. Okay, so what we can do now, we're going to put this aside and make ricotta with it at a later time. We'll try a different pot now. Put that aside. Now, as I said, you want it about 85 degrees. I've already boiled some water here. I use non-chlorinated water, and if you can, use unfluoridated water too. So we want this around about 85 degrees. Now let's see how we go. Okay, it should climb up pretty well because I took it to boiling point, so If it's too hot, you're better off starting with a hot pot, so to speak, a lot of boiling water, and then just work it down to the temperature you want by just adding colder water in smaller increments to try and get exactly where you want it. Then once you're there at 85 degrees Celsius, put the heat on and keep it down fairly low. You don't want it to be too hot, otherwise you'll just bring it to boiling, which is what you don't want. Okay, it's not going to go much more than that by the looks. Must have cooled down a bit while it was waiting. Okay, bring it up. While we're waiting, one of the things we should do, one of the things that gives mozzarella its great taste, believe it or not, is salt. There's quite a lot of salt you'll find in a lot of the pizzas and stuff. This is Himalayan salt, if you're wondering. Other than that, I would recommend Celtic salt. I wouldn't recommend the ordinary salt, just basically sodium chloride. It's not the best for you. Okay, we need a lot of minerals in our diet. Minerals are the building blocks that things are made out of inside our bodies. Okay. Go with our temperature. If anyone's wondering, this thermometer cost me around about $32 by memory. That's $32 Australian. Alrighty, 85. Now we just turn our temperature down pretty low. We need to keep some temperature because once we add the mozzarella to this water, it's actually naturally going to drop down somewhat in temperature. Okay, don't take your thermometer too far away. You'll need to check your temperature every now and again. Make sure it's doing alright. Just make sure you get the... Okay. Now what we do, you put that in there. Now don't overfill your pot. It only becomes dangerous in case it splashes out and you don't want anyone getting burnt. Okay, you let that warm up. Let's see how we're going with temperature now. We want to heat it up so it becomes nice and stretchy and just like mozzarella is, and form it. Doing this process also draws out the rest of the whey out of the cheese. Now you don't have to be perfectly 85 degrees either, okay? But that's like a target degrees. Okay, we're doing all right there. Okay, once we get it in there, you get it back up to 85 degrees and you try to hold it about that. You don't want to bring it to boiling, but you want to warm it up. You can see a little bit of salt appearing on there, but that's okay. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. Okay, so we want to get it to a gooey, stretchy, cheesy stage, and that's exactly the way it is. And what we're really doing here is working out the whey and forming the cheese. Just turn it right down now because she's pretty well where we want it. You can see the water is becoming quite milky white. We're actually bringing the whey out. Now this part of the job, you can sort of do it as long as you like, in a way, within reason of course. I've heated my cheese up quite well here. As you can see, it's all sort of lumpy and a bit like porridge. You don't really want that. Further along, we should be able to form this into a big, stretchy, cheesy blob. Okay, and lift it right up out of the saucepan. You can use spoons for this if you wish. Frankly, I just use whatever I can grab. Really, this is the fun part of making mozzarella cheese. This helps to put the salt throughout the cheese as well, because remember it's salty water. If you ever do throw the whey out, whey has got a lot of protein in it. Protein, if you know your molecular biology, your biochemistry, that there's a lot of nitrogen in protein. Whey is good for your plants, okay? So if you want to reuse your whey, you don't want to use it for something else. Other things you can use your whey for, apart from putting on your plants, you can put it in your compost bin. You need nitrogen to help break down organic matter. The whey on compost bin, I wouldn't put this batch on with the salt in it. I don't think salt's totally harmful, depending on the conditions, of course. Some plants can be very salt sensitive, so you have to be careful of that. But another use for the whey, if you don't do this, is for making beet kvass. You can actually check out my video on making beet kvass. Use it for inoculating, fermenting foods. You can do that. Use the whey for. Okay, we're getting better here. Starting to get that stretchy, cheesy look that mozzarella is just so famous for. Okay, if it gets a little bit stiff, just put it back into the hot water. If not, you can always drink whey. Whey is very good for you. You need the protein that's found in whey for repair of muscles and other tissues in your body. There's quite a lot of protein in your body. Okay, I'm not suggesting a diet high in protein. So if it starts to get a little bit hard because you've kept it out of the hot water, just pushing back in. Okay, you can do this for a little while if you want. Now, just while that's heating up, I'll just go and grab a pair of scales. I really don't know how long it lasts. Probably for quite a while if you wrap it up properly and keep it well chilled. But often it doesn't last long enough in our household to really know how long it lasts. Okay. You can see that water is getting almost like milk now. It's drawing all the stuff out of that. What I will do normally is tip this batch of whey and water into the large saucepan here, where you can make ricotta, because some of the substance here that's heating away here, just turn the heat up a little, can actually has got some of the product in it that will actually make ricotta. And like I say, most ricotta, if you look up the dictionary, will tell you that ricotta doesn't have any salt in it, but we always have salt in ours. There's plenty of evidence to show that salt is quite good for you, particularly Himalayan salt. Okay, we're starting to get that stretchiness, as you can see there. Pull it tight over. It's not there yet. Mind you, you could stop now if you wanted to. Certainly good enough, depending on what you do with it. Grate this up on a pizza and heat it up and eat. You will not know the difference. Starting to lose that lumpy porridge look and starting to get a bit of an elastic, stretchy look about it now. Yeah, look at that. See, that's what we're looking for. That sort of taut look about it, stretched over, like a stretched plastic, but it's not plastic. It's cheese. Alright, you can see that yellowness on the top of the pot there. That's the fat. That's what you want to get into that large pot over there and make your ricotta with. Alright, what we could do now, we'll stop it there. Could go further if you wanted to. Now this is usually where I burn the life out of my hands. Turn the flame off, which is quite hot, as you can imagine. Probably a good work health and safety point at this stage. Wear gloves. It doesn't take too long to cool down. Okay, you can see it's not far off. Okay, let's try and weigh this. Alright, with 0 grams, we've got 509 grams of mozzarella cheese for those cheese nerds out there, out of 6 litres of raw full cream dairy milk. Okay, let's put that out of our way. So what you can do now is form this. You can see it's doing what it's supposed to do. Nice and stretchy. At this stage is where you'd put ice cold water in there and let it sit in that. Another thing you could do, store it in, is actually the salty watery whey. You could put that in here and store it in that. That'll help keep it moist, keep the flavour in. I hope you enjoyed my little presentation on making mozzarella cheese. Don't forget to hang out for the ricotta one, which will be coming out very shortly, I hope. And you'll also be willing to quite try making mozzarella cheese yourself. Okay, if that's not good looking, I don't know what is. Okay. And I'll just have to deal with someone in a minute. We'll leave it here because it's not rated for that activity.